John from Ripewave Audio with a big update on Emotiva processors. The RMC-1L is back as a Plus model, and we'll dig into that. That's going to sell for $4,899. There's some revised pricing and other details that have come in since our last video last week. Now, I've taken that video down because the changes are enough that I didn't want to leave that one up there, but this fills in the changes, compares the RMC-1L Plus against the model it replaces, and how it now fits in with the line. And I got some extra clarity on what the XMC-2 offers with its fully balanced across all 16 channels. So a little correction there that I had to make because there's some changes over the previous models, and we got to get it right for this new series with the Plus models. A video posted yesterday by Emotiva's wrecking crew, as they call themselves, and this was a podcast of June 6, 2025, 18 hours ago as of we've started to make this video and absorb what they were telling us. And with this introduction of the RMC-1L Plus, which Dan says is only going to be in limited quantities. They think they have enough to take them through the end of the year. Now, that's not clear to me as with the current stock of components and materials, or is that limited, after the end of the year? Is this going away? I think it means that there's just limited materials and then they'll replenish that, but we'll see. We never know. Things are pretty fluid at times with Emotiva, and we just have to keep our eye on it. But be aware that he says it's going to be in limited quantities through the end of the year. But with this, they gave that pricing of $4,899 for the RMC-1L Plus. They're keeping the XMC-2 at $3,999 for a new model. So no changes with that. But they did mention because of tariffs and that the RMC-1 Plus is selling so quickly that they've had to go and order more parts, and they're subject to some new tariffs. And that sets a new price for the RMC-1 Plus after June 13. Orders placed after the date will not be $4,999, but $5,499 for a $500 increase over its initial launch price. And they state because of tariffs that they had to do that and the replenishment of the stock. So we watched this video, we got all the details, we've incorporated them into this video, so this will keep you posted. And then at some point, when we feel comfortable enough, we'll redo that full original video that we've taken down with the new material. We just want to verify a few facts with Emotiva before we go to that great lengths of redoing that whole video. If you watched that last video, you know we gave a long history on how these Plus models came out to release, starting with some of the first information that we gathered from October of 2022, when they said the processors were going to be upgraded to these Plus models with some introductory pricing. And it's interesting, the prices that were introduced for the RMC-1 Plus at that date is what they're moving to after June 13th at $5,499. So we're back to that. They were talking about the 1L at that time, but then it disappeared. And at that time, it was $4,499, so it's a little bit more at $4,899. And the XMC-2, now it's at $3,999, so a few $100 more for that one from that original one. And of course, the trade-in upgrade pricing, that's all been rethought because of that. But here we see we added this extra line with the June podcast now added into this, with the RMC-1L coming back in limited quantities for that price, shipping soon. I don't see it available on the website as they said that was going up that day, but I think early, maybe next week, we'll see that. There are some details on the order forms now for the 1L, and the new pricing that will be in effect was announced in that video. So what is this going to look like? Now, they haven't shown any pictures, and it wasn't in that podcast video either, but given the fact that the RMC-1 and the XMC-2 really essentially look the same, just with some silkscreen changes and nothing changed on the front, we envision the product to look like this in the front, exactly like the previous RMC-1L, and then on the back, and we've done a mock-up here. This is not a real photo official release from Emotiva, but we added that plus symbol on the silk screen, and we stuck an antenna where we believe it will be just by above that infrared input. So that's what we expect to see. Same chassis, same size. A lot of you like the size of this chassis, don't need the expansion modules, and rather fit it into a shorter area in their rack or wherever they're putting the unit in. Comparing against the RMC-1 Plus, obviously a shorter unit than the other one, so height was a big factor. If you flip it around, obviously the expansion modules aren't present in the 1L Plus, which was the same case with the original 1L. And we can just see that there isn't that 2 channels of extra XLR balanced inputs, but you still have one set of left and right stereo channels of XLR balanced on the RMC-1L. So that stays the same, and you don't have that internal phono moving magnet, moving coil capable preamp installed, and there's no capability to add that or any other modules in the future with the 1L. That is that limit that is not expandable from a hardware perspective. It does lose these expansion modules that were in the expandable RMC-1, like the balanced XLR and the moving magnet phono stage, which we show here. Comparing it against the XMC-2 Plus, this is the same height as we looked at the dimensions on the website. Although it looks a little shorter in my image here, it is the same height, but what you get with the 1L, as you always had, and now the 1L Plus, is that wider OLED display. So it's a double display versus a single OLED display that's in the XMC Plus. On the front, that's a main difference. Of course, there's a couple of extra buttons on the XMC-2 that you don't have on either the RMC-1 or 1L. When you flip it around the back, again, it's the same height, so it's really the way these things are laid out. As far as I/O, the XMC-2 Plus has one less optical and coax digital input than the 1L Plus or the 1. So that's really the big difference on the I/O is that one additional digital pair of coax and optical. And that's it. Otherwise, it's the same, but laid out a little differently. I can't quite see it, but it almost looks like some of the connectors are not quite as robust on the XMC-2. Plus, some of you might be able to verify for me if that's the case with the XMC. We never brought in an XMC-2, so we've never physically compared it against those really nice deep RCA connections on my RMC-1, which are the same ones in the 1L. Looking inside, the 1L always looked pretty similar to the RMC-1. I'm assuming that it will be the same case here, less the expansion modules that are installed. We added an extra detail on the new XMC-2 processor board. This is that moving from a Texas Instruments Satara ARM chip to the Raspberry Pi Compute Module 4, the CM4 processor. That gives you the Ethernet, and it gives you the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth, and built-in DRAC, so you don't need an extra box. And this new processor board is included with the RMC-1 Plus, 1L Plus, and XMC-2 Plus. So all models get this new processor. And then the other board that they've added was the new HDMI 2.1 8K capable board. I know a lot of you always write in, I don't need 8K. Well, there's other reasons why you want to upgrade the video, and that is performance, speed, switching ability. Waiting 30 seconds for an input to switch is annoying. Early feedback from some of the earlier adopters, the early users of these products, are saying it's much better. It's much faster. This has a new chip from Nuvoton, formerly known as Panasonic, that KM864807B chip. It's a very new chip. I think there's a couple of them in here. Does that matrix switching and everything. So this is what's giving it some advantage. I bet this implementation is really going to outshine a lot of the competition. That's my assumption. We'll see if that proves true or not. Like to see it. Always like to see things get better, of course. They brought in the expert to help refine the implementation. It's not just like taking a chip off the shelf and putting in. These all have to be designed properly into a solution and tested and worked out with all the software that needs to go with it. Emotiva has really put a lot of energy into this, as I can see. Now, this one has full Xbox support on it as well, and no fans. Not many of us are fans of fans. That video board is on all products. Also on all products that are purchased new is the new ADAC16 audio board with that TI PCM1795 chip. That gives a little bit better specs than what they used to have with the AKM 4490 chips. Of course, those aren't available anymore, so they've moved over to this. Has very similar specs. It either matches or betters that of the AKM chip they were using, and has some, op amps in here and electronic volume control. And we did get one question in. If you're running in the direct reference mode, this is using electronic volume control, and it's not doing any processing. So this is like using an external preamp in bypass mode with this functionality in the direct reference mode. And this is available on all new products, but you don't get this board with all upgrades. We'll explain that later. The front panel board was updated for the RMC-1 Plus, particularly because they needed the power to run the expansion modules. Because the 1L and the XMC-2 Plus don't have the expansion boards, this part isn't needed. So you're not going to get this new display board. You'll get the same display, the same OLED display, but not as part of this board with the high current switching power supply, because you don't need that extra power to do the expansion module. So here's a chart that we just put together for this video in one day to absorb all that new information and present it maybe a little more clearly than just saying it. What you get with each model and what you get with an upgrade. So if you have an RMC-1, you'll get all these new boards, except for the ADAC16, the audio board. That won't be upgraded. You'll still have your AKM DACs, not the TI DACs, when you upgrade that RMC-1. But you'll get all those parts if you bought a brand new RMC-1 Plus, which includes the trade-in. A trade-in is essentially you're buying a new unit and you're getting a discount of 50% on what you originally paid for that product. It's just like getting a new product. And it includes the expansion modules. If you do an upgrade, you can optionally add expansion modules. The RMC-1 Plus doesn't have that power supply or the expansion module or any other ones lower down, doesn't have that capability. The ADAC16, you get it with a new RMC-1L Plus or an XMC-2 Plus, but you don't get it with their upgrades. We said that before, but I think it's worth repeating. All the other items, the new CPU, the 2.1 HDMI video board with 8K capability, the wireless antennas are all included with any model that's a Plus model. And if you're upgrading to any of the Plus models, you will get those three things as well. So I hope this chart helps. We updated this slide, which shows the upgrade and trade-in programs. So option 1 to trade in, I could take this RMC-1 here, send it back to Emotiva. They give me a brand new unit, Essentially, I'm buying a new unit. If I buy it before June 13th, I get it at the $4,999 price. If I buy it after June 13th, it's going to be the $5,499 price, $500 more. And they send me back a brand new unit with all the expansion modules that come with it, which are that phono preamp and the 2 balanced XLR inputs. That's what we get. We apply that credit, you get the new unit. You must be the original owner. You get that 50%. You get a 5-year warranty, just like a new unit. You got to send back all the accessories that came with your original unit, the microphone, the extra boxes for the rack that you have, manuals. Send everything back, and they do anticipate, a turnaround that's going to take, I think they've upped this now to 2 to 6 weeks for whether it's a trade-in or an upgrade rather than 1 week as prior. So that has changed. If you want to upgrade your model and get your same unit back, you're going to then pay an upgrade fee, which is a lot less. So they call it the CR8 upgrade. That's going to be $1,499, whether you're upgrading to an XMC-2 Plus or an RMC-1L Plus, but you must be upgrading from either the XMC-2 or the RMC-1L to go to those models. You cannot down model from an RMC-1, so I couldn't take my RMC-1 and go down to our RMC-1L. That doesn't work for this program. If you are moving to an RMC-1 Plus, and regardless of what you have, whether that's an XMC-2, an RMC-1L, or RMC-1, that upgrade price is $1,699. Also, I've missed it before, that RMC-1L upgrade pricing is the same as if you were going to a 2 Plus. So you have a choice. If you are at an XMC-2, you could decide, do I want an XMC-2 Plus or an RMC-1L Plus? And that upgrade is going to be $1,499 regardless of which model you're moving to. But if you want to go to the RMC-1 Plus, $1,699. This chart here summarizes what we just went over on the other page of what those upgrades include, so there shouldn't be anything additional there. And the warranty, if you're doing the upgrade program, it's going to be 2 years or what you have left on your existing product, whatever is the longer of the two. No other products are eligible for upgrade, whether that's another Emotiva product or a third party. You do have to ship back your unit using the original box. If you don't have one, Emotiva will sell you one for a small fee. It has to be through a trackable shipper. If there's damage on one that's received, they may refuse it or charge you for repair. You can't send them something that looked like it was run over by a truck. It has to be, in good shape to get this credit. The CR8 upgrades, you will have to pay for shipping back to Emotiva. If you are doing the trade-in program, they will send you a prepaid label. So that's a difference with the trade-in program. When they send you back the unit, either yours or a new one, Emotiva covers the cost of shipping. If you don't want to refresh your hardware in any way, they are working on a firmware update that has a lot of these new features added in, and you'll be able to leverage at least the ones that aren't hardware dependent. So we'll have to see what that upgrade looks like and the features you get with that. On the order process, quotes are valid for 15 days. You have to use a form. We'll show you the form here, and you have to have proof of purchase. So in the last day, I've seen them upgrade these forms to include the 1L. So if you're doing a trade-in, now I've got the screenshot here with the different options. If you're going from the XMC-2 to a 1L Plus, you can now select that. If you're going from an XMC-1L to a 1L Plus, you can do that. But you can't go, of course, from a 1 to a 1L or an XMC. So all the options are listed there. And then we can also see on the upgrade, that they're listing the 1L. I think that was always there, so I didn't have to change that screenshot. And then keep in mind, if you're doing an upgrade and you need an expansion module and it's to an RMC-1, that it's expandable, you can actually select which expansion module you want loaded, although they don't have a choice to load both models. So if that's your case, I would call Emotiva to say, I'm trying to add both modules, not just one, and make sure they get that detail correct. So we had to update this chart as well now to add in the 1L Plus. That has the DTS:X Pro, just like the other Plus models. So everything will be the same there, the same speaker counts. These models are great. These processors do 16 channels. You can do 9 at the ear level, which includes the front wides. You can have 2 to 3 rows of height speakers, trading off number of subwoofers. So you can have one subwoofer with 3 rows of heights, or 3 subwoofers with 2 rows of heights, and any other combination in between. Very configurable on this setup. They all support Dolby Atmos DTS:X, as the old models did. They all have 1/4-inch headphone jacks, AM/FM tuners, the auto switching power supply. We can see here the IMAX Enhance is built into it. It's just going through a certification process, and that's what's pending. So of course, if they missed a detail, they might have some firmware update if they had to correct something for their certification. But let's just assume that we'll move ahead in a good way. Does support Direct Live. None of these new units or the old units support Direct Live bass control. This is a gap they have versus some of the competition. And then as far as direct active room treatment, that has not been mentioned yet by Emotiva. So we don't know what's coming for active room treatment. Although, Storm had it for a couple of years, and now Denon Marantz have announced that it's coming to their product. So we're waiting to see what other brands bring in active room treatment. This slide here, I did do some correction on the chip pictures, but we did have that right. So all the new units use Texas Instruments, the PCM 1795. The old ones have the AKM 4490 chip. The big difference in the prior video is that the XMC-2 Plus has the same chip running in mono mode for all 16 channels. As opposed to the non-Plus model, it was only the front 3 channels that were running in mono mode, and all the rest using only 1 channel of the DAC for the processing, for the digital to analog conversion. So this is an improvement, and that's where you get a little bit something better for your money with that. And we can see that the performance of the newer chips are about 3 dB more than the previous one, but otherwise the specs are largely the same. It's a 32-bit chip versus a 24 now. Emotiva does not publish signal to noise or THD, so we don't get that additional detail with the 1 Plus yet either. All these models, again, support generally the same I/O with 8 HDMI 2 out. On the video, you get your coax and your Toslink connections, 4 of those each, unless you're using the XMC-2, which is only 3. And they all give you a digital out. Not many processors, receivers give you a digital output. These models do. They do have an AES EBU input, which is not common, this balanced digital input. Emotiva is one of the few products that support that. So CD players and so forth sometimes have these of certain caliber. Emotiva even makes one. All balanced outputs, there's no unbalanced connections on these. The RMC-1 Plus is the only one that can do 3 balanced inputs. Is very unique for any processor out there, because that expansion module is in there as well. And they all have a zone output. They don't do 2-3 zones like other manufacturers, but it does have that built-in phono, moving magnet, moving coil, but only for the RMC-1 and RMC-1 Plus. The video support, the 1L Plus, has the same capabilities as its peers, supporting all these. One additional point that I will add in here It does have support for HDMI 2.1 fixed rate link, and this keeps the bandwidth, the throughput at the same level. So it's when you're switching between different sources, it really keeps things a lot more stable. It's the first product we've seen that has a fixed rate link capability. Not that say that others don't have it, but the others are not advertising this capability. And I'm wondering if it has something to do with this new HDMI chip that they have that they're utilizing. And we can see here that all these new Plus models really of leveraging all the 2.1 features, even DSC, which I didn't report last time, but Emotiva is reporting that they have DSC support with that fixed rate link and other features like auto low latency, the quick frame transport, the quick media switching, which a lot of products don't support it because of an inherent defect in the Nuvoton chips, like the ones that Denon Marantz and other models use. So they can't claim it, but these new units can. IMAX Enhance are built in. Of course, we're waiting on that certification, Dolby Vision, all the HDR, HDR10 Plus, really checks a lot of the boxes on the video, including the copy protection 2.3. On the networking, of course, they all have Ethernet, and the wireless, they did explain in the last podcast, caveat here, it has it built into the software. The user interface they felt was so user unfriendly that they hid that from the UI, so you can't get to it yet. So they're working on adding the user interface part of the wireless for Bluetooth and Wi-Fi into the system. That will be coming with a new firmware update. So that's why we color those blue instead of green. And we still don't know if it will support Bluetooth out. Only Bluetooth in is confirmed at this time. And the control is just the same as any other Emotiva. It's got Ethernet and an infrared type control in here. 4 trigger outs. We'd love to see 4 trigger outs on these products. We're waiting on more details on Emotiva's new streaming capabilities. They've partnered with Volumio, Italian company, and that will give them capabilities for Roon and Tidal Connect and Cobas Connect. It doesn't support them all that are out there, but it does help to have this. We do streaming in other ways, so not really from our perspective, whether you have this or HEOS or some other streaming capability built into your receiver processor, I don't think it's a big deal, but some people like the convenience that it's all in one unit versus having some other external box. We use either our Apple TV, or if we want to have the highest quality USB streaming out, we use our Macintosh MacBook going out into the USB input of the Emotiva, and we do some good 2-channel streaming, and that can come up at some of the higher sampling rates if desired. But here's what that new streaming platform looks like with some of the screenshots. Internet streaming, you get some of these with Volumio as well. Tidal, Cobas, tuned in, radio. It doesn't check all the boxes like a HEOS would get a lot more of these checked off from Denon Marantz, but it's more than Emotiva has had in the past. The remotes are all the same on these new models and the same as the prior generation, which is the PR1, this very sturdy. Actually, I think I prefer this over the Marantz remote we have. That the Marantz one has a backlight, but I like the functionality of this one better. That's just my preference. On the dimensions, the same dimensions, new generation Plus versus non-Plus are the same dimensions as before. Obviously, the RMC-1 is going to be the tallest. This 1L Plus, the new one, comes at 5.75 inches, 146 millimeters, which is the same as the XMC-2. We don't know the weights of these yet. They give a shipping weight in some cases. We don't have any data on the 1L. Could it be a little bit more? Maybe. We don't know the power consumption on these units. Emotiva traditionally doesn't publish that. We do know that these are all manufactured in the United States using internationally sourced parts, 5-year warranty. They're all metal in the front, no plastics as you see on some products. It doesn't have any illuminations on the sides like the Marantz Cinema 30 on up. It doesn't have the enhanced shielding that some of the Marantz products have. New features that are added into the 1L is the same as these other new Plus models. They've updated Dolby Atmos, which improves the upmixing. They've added DTS:X Pro with a new DTS:X codec as well. It makes all 16 channels available, not just 12 for DTS:X. That's what's giving you the improved IMAX video, the audio support. The Neural X is also updated. You've got the new web pages, so you can do control, volume, and things like that, changing input sources through a web page, but also configuration where you can go in and change your speaker presets, etc. You do get some good features carried over from other previous models, video codecs that were supported in the past. They have this live AV, so when you're in editing in the config, whether you're using one interface or another, as soon as you make the change, you can hear that change. They take instant effect. There are several features we're still waiting to hear. You've heard already some of them, and here's a recap. We're waiting on wireless, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. We're waiting on more details about the Volumio support. That will probably come with the Wi-Fi and the wireless, right? We're waiting on the IMAX certification. There's been no word about the output expansion modules. Mentioned very early on with RMC-1 back in 2018, thereabouts. Is there a future that has that? Now, they alluded in the last podcast that there are more processor features coming that they're just not ready to talk about. Is this one of them? I hope so. And the other two I really hope they had, particularly direct live bass control. I think you need, at this caliber of processor, you need that. The competition, even Onkyo has it, and Integra, Denon, Marantz, others that support Dirac have that bass control option. Active room treatment, Art, well, it's kind of new. I don't know if it's a must-have yet. We'll have to see how users of Storm have received that and take a look. But, it'd be nice to know what their plans are. I would assume with the new processor and everything, it should be capable of supporting something like active room treatment, but we got to find out. Let's hear it from Emotiva, what's going on with that. We suspect this is going to sound pretty good. The reports we've got back from the last video, some of the owners of the new products say it indeed sounds better than the prior either XMC-2 or RMC-1 they replaced with a Plus model. They can clearly hear the difference. The defects are gone and everything. I'd like to find out, is there a category above this green circle where it actually sounds better? And then how does it compare to some of the newer flagships like the AV10 and 20 from Marantz? So what do you think? This is the new RMC-1L plus the other ones with some updated details that we just got yesterday. Wanted to get this information out to you as soon as possible with these corrections so you can be as informed as I am. Your feedback would be really helpful. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell notification so you're informed when the next video is posted. Until then, keep evolving your audio experience.